Hello everyone and welcome back to The Nut. This is Gold Mason and I'm actually joined by Bernardo FC and Shiloh. This isn't your typical Nut. This is a interview with the winning champions, the Glacial Glastriers. FC and Shiloh have graciously donated their time to tell us a little bit about their championship run. Bernardo is going to grill them on all the interesting and exciting things that happened during the season and what led to that victory lap. So I will be in the background a bit, but I'm gonna turn it over to Bernardo and let you guys get going.
Thank you, Goat. Hi, guys. Gonna present myself, Bernardo. I'm the host here. I'd please ask for each of you to say hi, so people can identify you during the questions.
Hi, I'm FC.
I'm Shiloh.
Thank you for joining us. I know there is a lot of celebration to do, but also life and months move on. You are involved with SPL and other tours, so just a quick one for our beloved NU community. It's supposed to be a quick video, a quick interview. I don't want to take too much time of you, but there are a few things that people asked me to ask for you and for you to give your thoughts. Stuff that are important for our community and stuff that we are most curious to see how it worked on the winning team. I'm gonna start easy with the first question. Did you guys enjoy NUCL?
I guess I'll go first. I did. Obviously, it's better when we win. I have not been the biggest fan of the CL format, just historically. I don't hate it, but it's not I just prefer a regular PL or some other side tours. But I did kind of enjoy. We spent a lot of time deliberating on tier picks, which made it interesting. And it wasn't too much different from just a normal tournament regardless, so it was a lot of fun.
And yeah, from my end, I enjoyed it a lot more this year. I was a big proponent and kind of helped set up this format last year, and there was a big Spanish tour, I believe, years ago that used a format very similar to this, where I think a lot of the inspiration was drawn from, and that was one of the favorite tournaments I had played in back then. And so being able to bring it back and now win it this year has been really fun. I know last year I got really busy, even though I was a manager, and I wasn't able to kind of be as active or around as much for the tournament, and the team didn't do as well. So actually winning this year feels a lot better, obviously.
Very interesting. Well, winning of course makes it better, I'd say. But I'm kind of surprised with UFC. I thought usually we get the overwhelming positive answer of the new CL format. It's so good, people are copying outside, and I was even going to ask you about, hey, we will see Uber CL anytime soon. I know that we right now are having Uber CL, but do you think there is anything in particular that you would improve on the format, or something that you particularly don't like specifically, so we could address that maybe?
No, I think it's just personal preference. In Ubers, we started our winter tour 2 weeks ago, and it's World Cup, because I voted. I prefer World Cups generally. I just like playing for Team Canada, so maybe that's it. But I don't know, I don't think the format is bad. I just personally prefer a regular PL or a World Cup. I don't see any inherent flaws with it, really. It's just how I feel, you know?
That makes sense. I think it's the appeal of having an alternative. In prior moments we are kind of bind to blind draft, which is it's a gimmicky for drafting, but the truth is exactly the same. It was a way that we found to accommodate older gens as well. So I think it's nice to figure out that's a valid alternative, and I think I wouldn't set that, but I believe in the near future we will end up having kind of a rotating tour next to a PL. So one year we have a World Cup, one year to have a CL, one year we might find another kind of different format that is interesting, and then we can accommodate both the Prime League, which is the PL of course, and other tours, other variations that are interesting, and end up having a bigger embrace of the community for other sides. But nice to hear, and especially another difference I think that I could ask for you guys. It's you, of course, Shiloh, you play every single gen. You are a fixed name on NU tours. We know that it's a valid, super positive thing that you bring to teams, that is not only your builder but your ability to click in different tiers. So for you it isn't something really new, but the question is more to FC right now, because in the recent time I saw your name on circuit, so you made good runs on NU individuals in recent times. But usually in team tours, at least from the past maybe 3 or 2, I'm not completely sure. Usually you were stick at Sun and Moon. Well, you made a change. You made a positive change. Actually, you finished the season with, I believe, with 6-3. Let me grab that very quick.
Yeah.
6-3. And so that means that your first game was a Sun and Moon loss. So you finished at least, well, 6-2 at Sword and Violet. What do you think about that right now? Are you having fun at NU, at SV? Do you regret and prefer to go to Sun and Moon, but the fit was better at SV? What do you think?
I think for our team, it was definitely better that I moved to SV because in the week 1 game, like M-Forbes just wasn't as comfortable with the gen, and obviously, like through like SPL and World Cup, his main gen has been Sun and Moon for a while, so like he could adapt there easier. And I had obviously already played a bunch of individuals for SV, so I was fine with that. Like I still enjoy SM. Like I built all our teams, I had fun testing it, but I think like for the team, I didn't mind playing SV, and like I enjoy SV. Some weeks were worse than others. Some weeks I went a little insane trying to build some stuff, and it just kept losing to everything. But that's SV as a gen. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I think I still slightly prefer SM, so I might play it more in the future. But it does depend on the team, and if I manage again, or am I a player, obviously. Because if I'm a player, I'll just play where I'm slotted.
Makes sense. And for you, Shiloh, why you never touch SV, bro? I never saw you playing a single SV game.
I mean, for this tour specifically, we obviously just had TRFC and a few others, and obviously I was picked as a flex slot more than anything.
Yeah.
But in general, I do keep up with SV, usually more around SCL times. I know I've managed every single SCL, so I haven't been able to play it, but during SCL, I do play and build, and I'm quite active in knowing the tier. So I still have some of that knowledge, but I just haven't had I'm usually just too busy to play seasonals and things like this. Though I did sign up for the latest one, and right now I'm not planning to manage this next SCL, and ideally would like to play if somebody wanted to draft me. So we'll see if that happens. But
All right, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm not planning
no one
to
will
manage.
grab you.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure, bro.
Man, come on.
I'm really not.
We all
I mean,
believe you, man. We all believe you.
Don't spoil. That's one of the last questions, guys. Relax. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get a little bit out of NU. We can't go slowly. But yeah, I know that, Shiloh. I know that during SEO time you eat the tier because I end up in the last couple weeks with the terrors, and I saw you helping Shen very closely, and yeah, that's why the question, because I know you are capable of playing. You keep up at least moderately with the meta, so it's kind of, wouldn't call surprising because I understand that real life priorities and else it's understandable, but it's a shame. I would love to see you watching playing SV.
I did make
go on.
I did make ladder tour finals last year, so I have played some SV tournaments. So, and my prep this NUCL was mainly just telling people not to lose to toxicity after we lost to it like 5 times in the first 3 weeks. So they do help out here and there.
We can have that meta talk later. I believe Toxt is a big exclamation point in the tier right now, but we move on. We move on for those. The next question is more related to team building, because I was talking earlier in the nut about how my perception of the draft that you and Tier did, FC, was fairly ambitious and aggressive, in the sense that by the end of the draft, looking name by name, Gold Mason even tested himself on our first nut episode, that your team it's on paper completely insane. And looking at the lineup at the finals, that's kind of you have a lineup with, well, if you're gonna put like every single name would be FC Tier, Emilio Forbes, Shiloh, Aerobe, Helm, Void, Violet River, Big Fat Mantis, and Amaranth. Probably the only name that isn't that, like I said, common to us here in NU is Aerobe, but I know him from Hexmon and he's good there. But all the others are like top players from their pool eventually. And those kind of team buildings they usually go feast or famine. It's very hard for a core with such a group of decorated players to every single one be engaged at the same time. It's hard for maintaining, I wouldn't say maintaining positivity, but it's hard to get back on track with a team like that. And so you not only took the risk, but even expanding the question, your start in the tour wasn't great. And with a line like that, you were even able to turn it around. What was your main thought during the draft? Go by value, go by what you thought was the best player in the pool available? Because you were able to get such a good team with double self-buy that to me, it's, as a fellow manager, it's completely obvious that I lost the draft to you, you know?
Yeah. Like going into the draft, me and Tyr we basically had one thing certain, and it was like we're getting Shiloh or we're getting Lax, and Lax got retained in like 2 days. So we're like, okay, we're getting Shiloh. We didn't have an upper cap on him really for budget, but like he was cheaper than we expected. We spent 20k. I think we had him on the sheet for like 27, which was kind of crazy. But we thought it would be fine. And then from there it was like we started with a good retain, obviously. River like farmed the ADV pool for 10k, which was good. And then like we're like friends with most of the people we drafted. We were familiar with them before the tour started, which was helpful because then we kind of knew that they would have like at least some motivation and we would work well together. But to me, it was just like I was confident enough that I could build 789. So I didn't care if they didn't know how to build it. I could build for them and they could just click. So I just tried to pick strong pilots like M-Forbes. And then obviously we just picked people who were mostly self-sufficient beat like before that, because obviously Shiloh had BW and ORAS covered, and then Amaranth built all his own teams, BFM built all his own teams, River built all her own teams, and then Void built some of his, I think, and then Shiloh built some. It was like a tag team effort. I had no idea what I was doing there, but I just kind of like, we just went for basically who we thought would put up the most wins. Like we were, if I had to build more teams, I would have been fine building more teams, basically.
Makes sense. I think like you kind of figure out something that Slice, the other finalist, but Slice is bad as managing, so let's keep it that. That the value of a player. No, don't laugh, Gold Mason. I know you. I can hear in the background.
Did you actually hear me? My mic was muted, but what the fuck?
Bro, I know you. You're my friend. I know you're laughing that my beef is light. That said, you figure out the value of a player like Shiloh because in the previous NUCL, people were trying to use those flexible players to pick for them different tiers. So, okay, this week what you wanna play, and then they pick that tier. And when you have like a player with that caliber that can go positive in the picks of the opposition, bro, that's so much value because you transform a 50-50 into a 5 versus 3 in favorable matchups because you have the 4 that you pick plus the Shiloh. So I think that was something that super paid off and makes sense. And now in hindsight, it's very understandable the value that you would pay for Shiloh. And it wouldn't be absurd, like a 27k for a 5-4 on the opposition pick, it's a great value. So yeah, and your availability to build for the other tier, I think is something that it's really a differential. That's something that I perceived as a manager as well. A lot of people... Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was on winter break. I got off exams. I had like a month straight of just nothing. So I was like, okay, I can just build a bunch of teams for every slot in UCL.
Works a lot because there are a lot of names that look at the format and look at, hey, I can play different tiers every single week, and good players, man. So the ability to make them go at ease, I try to make that somewhat with Elodin, and with mixed results, my team building of ADV isn't like brilliant or anything. Gold Mason cannot test that, or even DPP. So I could not put him in a position to succeed as much as I liked, but being able to be that driving force of providing the teams, making easy for those players to to play, it's such a big differential that it's understandable this success. But then I have my following question that I started a little back ago, which is, with a team like that, how was the environment after the first 3 weeks where you had 2 losses and 1 defeat? What did you make to like turn it around, or like you simply let it go and eventually people started winning? How was the managing part of like managing a crisis?
All right, so I didn't put it in any of the public channels, but in manager channel, me and Tier were absolutely crashing out because we kept losing every week ourselves, and then the team kept losing every week, and we're like, "Yo, we suck at this game." But you know, we tried to keep it chill in the general channels, and we didn't really change anything. I think we just figured out the best way to do our lineup. Which was like, because we had, you know, Aero B, M Forbes, me and Tier all rotating between SV to start, and then me and Tier just like stuck it out, and then we got, I think, slightly better at picking the tiers as the week went on, as the tour went on, because we just figured out like opponents' weaknesses and how we could deal with that best. I don't think we changed too much.
One question regarding specifically that point. When you pick, you focus on your team strengths or the opposition weak points? I try to make a mix of them. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose picks. But how will you approach?
Before we picked our own tiers, aside from BW, we picked BW every week after one. We were like, okay,
and
what
RBY.
We actually didn't pick RBY 1 week because we thought, okay, what will the opponent pick before we decide ours? And the only week we didn't pick RBY, I think, was versus Maris, because Amaranth was just like, no, they are picking RBY. We don't have to pick RBY as well. And we obviously got that snipe right, which was good because we wanted Amaranth to play. So yeah, like first we'd be, okay, what are they going to target? And then we would think, okay, what's our best response to that? Because we had some crazy picks. Like we doubled GSC'd into B or something, who was 6-0 at the time. Yeah. And because we also picked ADV and we wanted to just split up who their mainers were or where, which did end up working out for us. And then obviously like the one time we didn't pick RBY, we got that call right as well. So it's like, it was a combination of both. We're like, okay, where can we shine the most? But we don't want to stretch our lineup too thin because we have to respond to their picks as well.
Yeah, because again, looking at the draft, although you have like names like Shiloh that can play a lot of tiers, Tier it's himself that was available to play a lot of different tiers. He played SV, he played ORAS, ADV, and I believe he was set to play an SS game that ended up being double sub. So you had those guys available, but at the same time, all the others were like, Violet just played ADV, Big Fat Mantis just played Jesse, Void just played DPP. So to me, it's very hard to work with that kind of mix where you have a few guys that you know that can flex, but you have others that if the opposition doesn't pick and you do not pick, you end up in a position that you are without using your optimal lineup. But it's very hard. That's why I like to manage NUCL, and I see that you end up mastering it, which is very nice to see.
I was gonna say this was
just real quick.
Yeah, go.
No, go Mason.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's why I love this tour. Like, it's really hard to host it, just from a hosting perspective, because people forget to send their lineups, and I have to remind them, and then 12 hours later they have to send their actual, or it's their tiers first, then their lineups. So it's harder to host than usual. Not that hard, but but it is really cool seeing, like, especially when the managers share, like, oh, we're gonna not pick RBY this week because we want to see if our opponents pick RBY, and then we can flex our RBY main or somewhere else if we need to, or we get the snipe and we get our RBY player in. That kind of stuff, I feel like it keeps people more engaged on the manager front, because I feel like sometimes in these PLs, especially near the end of the season, like, people just don't give a fuck. And so they just do whatever, and it's not as fun. But there's a lot of like manager mind games, and especially in this tour where every single team was still in in week 8 or week 7 rather. I think that was really cool. Everybody was still trying really hard and like putting their best effort forward, so it was pretty cool. Especially the few managers that like actually told me their picks and stuff beforehand and the reasoning for it. So go ahead, Shiloh.
Yeah, no, I just mainly wanted, I think the week that I was happiest with FC tier and all of us, because we all discussed the tier picks together. I don't know if they did without us and then talk to us, but we did all discuss it at different points. Was finals, honestly, because we made some risky picks there and it ended up working out really, really well for us, where we didn't end up picking ADV for Violet, despite it being probably one of our strongest slots, because we were just able to pretty much cross out every tier that we expected them to pick, and we got to a point where we were like, okay, it's a 50-50 basically between them picking like ADV or RBY. And we also had that flexibility where Violet was like, oh, I can totally RBY 2 in that scenario, because Violet's also very good at pretty much everything Gen 1, 2, and 3. So if needed, Violet just being able to flex, even though it was finals, gave us the ability to kind of just send in a more risky tier pick and not maybe pick for our best players, and kind of roll the dice and be like, we know what the Dittos are kind of going to have to pick between. Because we were able to say they're going to pick DPP, ORAS, and SS for sure, I think was what, or DPP and SS for sure. And then between the rest, we knew no matter what they picked, we would pretty much have the advantage, because they're not going to pick a second black-white into us. We didn't think they would pick SM into us. And there were just a few other things we were able to knock out. And yeah, so it just really is fun to get into those mind games, especially in playoffs, where the stakes are a lot higher. You've picked against this team before in the past, so you know how it's worked out depending on how it went before. And so it's just really fun to be involved in that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think finals worked out really well for us tier pick wise. And yeah.
Carlo was just too scared to double ADV again. Don't let him say otherwise.
I was
Damn.
also I did not want to double ADV.
This guy was slaving
call
away
out.
ADV for 4 weeks.
You should ADV, you should face Overkeeper, you should have stalled him again, but that's another conversation.
No, I was even if we had double ADV, I don't think I would have let them put me there.
I think Tier would have
protested.
played it for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, we didn't
I
end up picking ADV.
Yeah. I end up making that remark on my predicts that the biggest win was to avoid the double ADV while getting an ADV pick. I think that was a brilliant work from you guys. And in the end, like, that's a connection to my next question. The finals itself was pretty much a stomp, and that happens in every single tour. But my question is, being at least in my point of view, favorites for the series, but having already lost to that team previously on the regular season, and actually having surpassed the number 1 team as well in the semis. At least to me, that was the real final, to be honest. But that's another conversation. How do you guys enter the finals? You were confident, or you were like with foot on the floor and were like, oh, let's be real, 1 game at a time? How was the mental of the team during that final? Because it was very dominant, so curious to know.
Yeah, low key, once M4s beat Kingler in week 7, I knew we won the tour, because we cannot lose the tournament after that. Scraping in last game and like with all the scheduling stuff that week.
Yeah, I don't think we had
I was very much involved on that.
I don't think we had cracked top 4 all season. I don't think we had a seed higher than like even 5 or 6, honestly, for the entire season. And then we somehow make playoffs at the end of week 7. We just, at that point, we had like, I think, every confidence in the world riding behind us.
Pretty much insane, man. Like, I wouldn't call an underdog story because of the names of the team, but the comeback story that you guys made was very nice to see. Unfortunately, you need to pass by me, and you did in a strange way, but you guys did manage to pass to the playoffs, and you finished the job. That was the most nice thing to see. And well, let me see my questions, because you guys are like firing up questions and answering even the questions I will make. That's really wasn't my schedule. My question It's Shiloh. It's first of all, you're facing someone that you know pretty damn well, and someone that knows you pretty damn well. That's something that usually throws me off when I'm prepping for someone. How do you approach that matchup? Were you a little bit more fired to play a turn? And well, we are just seeing you smash people with auroras. You're facing one. Were you scared about it anyways? What are your thoughts during both the prep of that week and the game itself? What you can share with us? You could
Yeah,
Gold Mason. You
yeah,
could
you
just
can play it in
let
the
it play.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going into it, honestly, I felt like I had a pretty big advantage because I haven't built or really touched ORAS since playing since like 2020. Building, honestly, probably since the generation ended. I haven't really built a lot of ORAS. So I've been pretty out of tune with the tier, honestly, whenever I've had to play it recently, which has been very rarely. I have usually asked eternally for teams or just stolen them from replays or wherever I could get them. So I hadn't really been involved in ORAS too much. And then I think it was week 3 or week 4, Aerob was playing with Tashi and ORAS. And I'm like, okay, fine, let me try taking a stab at just building something because we really needed the win that week. So and I actually had a ton of fun getting back into ORAS and building, and then Aerob was able to win. And I'm like, okay, let me see how long I can keep this up. And by the time we got to Eternally's week, I'm like, oh yeah, let me go into ORAS against Eternally. Because I had been watching a lot of ORAS replays, going over a lot of teams, and Eternally's the first person I watch whenever I watch ORAS because he's really been dominant in the tier for years at this point. So getting used to his building styles and seeing how the tiers evolved was the biggest way to learn. And the biggest thing I saw was honestly he cheated on Rock's resist a lot, and so did a lot of ORAS players, where they're going to be stacking 2 to 3 Rock weeks a game and only have like Pelipper as removal, maybe Defog's Tank, which isn't too reliable, things like that. So I just started making teams that really just punish with like Pinsir is my favorite ORAS change in years, where it's was never really used when the generation was current. Like at most you'd maybe see Sash lead sets, if that. But Scarf Rocks, Pinsir, things like that becoming a trend has been something I love seeing, and we used against Watashi, used here. And yeah, so I just felt very good with building ORAS again for the first time in years. So going into the game, I actually felt very confident. I had a team I really liked. I felt good into Eternally's teams, and I knew I had. Usually, it is true when you play somebody you know very well and they know you very well. It's a little tougher, and I've had that before when I played Eternally, when like in current generation tiers and things like that. But this time, he really had no real info on my ORAS tendencies since I just haven't had any in years. So I felt good with the team, good with the build, and then I just had a really, really good matchup when the game actually came. So I was able to kind of cruise to victory.
Nice to see the prep working. That's always pleasing as a manager because you see the reward that your player put into prepping, to working, to caring about the game. So nice to see you rewarded, and it was a very hype game for the new community. We were at the 2 room watching, hey, Etern and Shiloh. I end up like popping up, calling you both Anks, and I'm older than you too. So it was a amazing game to see, and yeah, I agree with Pinsir is something fairly new, at least from what I'm seeing from ORAS. I saw like a Kyo team with it in the past couple of weeks, I believe so. Ruffles used one with Mode Breaker, Swords Dance as well, and it can do a lot of things, and it's very strong. So very nice to see one grabbing a win. Very nice to see you having success, and thank you for the insight. That's very interesting. FC, you have a different game to drive us. It's the semifinals versus Plague, and we all need to talk about what that Beetle is doing in the team, because I saw your report on your opinion on SV at the moment, and you put a lot of respect on the Heracross name, and I agree 100% with you. Like, it has the speed, it has the damage, like the damage is insane to be honest. It has the move pool, and the typing isn't that atrocious. But still, we simply do not see him, mostly because he gets wearing down very, very fast because he's just rock neutral, a lot of spikes, and faster stuff eat him alive because it's not Scarf. So, and probably it's like a gigantic target from Eagle that we saw like dominating even during the finals. So it was an unusual brink. What made you build a Heracross team? What was that you find out, and what kind of matchup you were expecting in order to say, hey, that's the call?
Alright, let me actually check my channel to see my logs, because I had a very good reason for this. Trust me. Okay, so when the week started, I said, the Vision has seen it. And then I sent the Heracross set and said, I'm bringing this. And that was my prep.
Bro!
So, why I thought that is because it was really funny. But also, I wanted to bring, like, something slightly cheesy. Because, obviously, this thing is PUBL. Like, no one uses it. So I was just like, I actually didn't prep till, looking back, I didn't prep till the day of the game. So I don't know where this idea came from. But I was like, okay, I want to bring something that sets up and can sit for a while. Which was like, okay, his scout had like a lot of hyper offense. So I was like, okay, I want something that can trade. And then if balance comes, it has to be able to sit. So I was like, okay, it could be Hariyama, because that thing can trade really well because it's so bulky. But also Heracross just had like, I don't know, it spoke to me. It had an enticing typing and stabs, because it just kind of kills everything. Like, if you get it into the right position. So I tested it a couple times with like a couple different teams, and I'm like, okay, Heracross is like the only good part of some of these teams. Let's make a good team around Heracross. And then I didn't end up doing that, but I brought it anyway, because this team doesn't have a ghost resist.
Yeah. There's a keys that can like, okay, it dies to fire move, but at least can threaten the Thunder Wave. But yeah, man, like I tried to build so many Heracross teams. To me, it's almost on a personal level, that build, because, and when eventually you'll see what you're using. It's not what people expect, you know. When you think of Heracross, either you think Flame Orb or you think Scarf, and suddenly you see lefties, and that's not the most weird part of it. When it clicks this next move, I completely lost my mind. Yeah, bulk up. Like, the monster has SD and a gigantic attack. Everybody tries to build like offensive Heracross with like Swords Dance Trailblaze, and it eventually fails. By the time you had 2 and you have Tiara up, nothing else could kill you. And I imagine that you had Megahorn. Yeah, you can see. Fighting move, bulk up. What is last? Probably a knockoff, I believe so.
Yeah.
So, in the end, nothing there could threaten it back. And you could kill every single one. To me, bro, for real, that was such a wonderful pick. And now with Guts Boots, for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, that was such a interesting way to build, and was one of the most like different ways I saw like in recent tournament game of any Pokemon being used. You know, it was so unorthodox, and that's probably my last questions regarding NU in general. What are your perception as you guys, 2 remains, jokes aside, of someone that not necessarily like breathe the tier, someone that plays like regularly, to come and build a different tier? Because no one has any single doubt about your abilities to click, but whenever a tour like this starts, you can just look at the first notes. It's like, hey, here in FC got an amazing team, but who will build SV for them? And then we're like seeing you guys bring innovations, you guys finding new ways to use monos that like we honestly gave up. So a lot of merits on you for that, but you usually see that in a lot of different tournaments. What do you think that adds from a new mind to a established tier, you know? What do you think that it's the biggest advantage you can have in a situation like that?
I'm just in general like very confident in my own building, like no matter what tier it is. Like in SCL, I probably built a team for like every level 100 gen at some point, because I was just like, I trusted everything that I sent. Like when I started like playing SVNU more, which was during Open last year, I built 0 teams, I think. maybe like one hyper offense, and tier would give me the rest of them. And then I'm like, okay, I've almost qualified for circuit. I'll join seasonal. And then I started building a couple more of my own teams. And then once you get into the tier just a bit, I think it's not that hard to build. Like, I think once you are accustomed to playing, you can get accustomed to building pretty quickly. And like I said, I'm confident in my own builds. So I was like, just every week I would just build like 5 teams and just be like, okay, this is good. This is terrible. I have some pretty like extreme takes on what is terrible. I got called out for one of them earlier today because I said Cramorite is unviable garbage, which is true. But
It isn't.
You know.
But okay, move on.
once you get used to it, I feel like it's like, obviously I'm an Ubers main, but transferring over, because I build all my teams in Ubers. Once I learn NU a bit, I can build all my teams, and then they have to like fit my style. But yeah, I was able to make that work.
The thing with that is that I tried to play other tiers as well. I played Ubers. I reached a respectable level at ladder. But that's the biggest difference. I'm usually able to do that with one team of Mons that I think that, like he happened with Heracross, like speak to me, and it's those 6. But I have a very big, a very hard time on branching out in new teams, new structures in a new tier. So seeing you being able to do that and piloting different teams, different structures with great success, to me it's something very commanding, and I wanted to know how can you do that. And it's a little bit about confidence as well, because I think whenever you try to build for something, if you get too like stuck on check-in boxes, you end up not finding teams that aren't perfect but work in a majority of times, or in times that make sense. Like, you brought a team without a ghost resist, that's true, but the eventual ghost was a fucking Basket Legion, and then there's a Vaporeon, so there is no big worries on that, you know. So I think that's something that as builders we should approach as well, like have a little bit more flexibility and be more, well, less Stormborn about what a team must have. But it's very nice. Thanks for sharing, Mr. FC. So my last question, I think, to close this, it's for both of you. We kind of briefly talked earlier about stuff outside NU, mostly officials. I know FC you are doing SPL right now. Shiloh, I believe you're just hosting it. You're not necessarily directly involved, but well, what we can expect from both FC and Shiloh. We will see Shiloh play. We will see FC manage SCL or any officials in the near future, or you plan to stick to playing? How are your plans? And before that, I forgot one question about SCL. You both end up having like kind of a heartbreaking season last year. Shiloh ended up being super close to qualify to playoffs, and I believe FC, the Spartans, lost in the finals, while in the semis you end up winning the tiebreak game to go to the finals at the first place. So it was a very nice run, but was that close in a 6-4-2 win it all. Do you guys take any big lessons from this last season? Because in the end, officials are the highest point of our game. So in the end, I suppose they have the biggest lessons, the biggest heartbreaks, all the major emotions and the major stuff happened there. So, well, what you guys learned, or if sometimes you can learn nothing and just move on, because that's life, you know. Sometimes shit happens and you lose. Not necessarily you did something wrong.
Yeah, like for me, I had my best tournament ever during SCL. So, you know, I have had harder losses that like teach me more, because I'm like, for this one I was like, okay, I'm happy with my own personal performance, but it's also not the first time I've lost in an official finals. Like, I lost my first official finals ever in World Cup 21, I think. So, you know, it wasn't like a brand new thing for me, but it's just like, it just kind of reinforced how I should be approaching this game, because obviously it led to good results, and like, even though we didn't win, I was still okay with my personal performance. Like obviously, there's always more I could have done. I could give, better advice, better prep. So maybe branching out to more tiers will help with that. But yeah, I was content with it despite the loss.
And for your Shiloh, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this was my 5th SCL in a row managing, and the same team every year, and with Gingy every year. That we added Kunal this year. It was amazing. It was also our worst performance by far, and that just means we came in 5th place, 1 BD off of making playoffs. So any one game result that entire season, flipping from a loss to a win, would have had us at least tie for playoffs. So obviously stings a little bit. And as much as people like to joke, I do think that was a good send-off from me from managing. That's now I think that's my 9th or 10th official team tournament managed, not including World Cups. And I just don't really have much time for it anymore. Managing takes a lot if you really want to be a part of it and have a great season and put together a great thing. And this season, we started off on fire. We had 4 wins in a row, and then maybe it was bad planning on my part. I got engaged halfway through, and I ended up not realizing how much more stuff would happen after that for the past few weeks. So I kind of checked out for a week or two after that. And by the time I got back, our team wasn't as active. There was a bit of a gloomier mood just because we had taken a few losses. People weren't as active. I think other people had checked out a bit as well, just assuming we'd make playoffs, because that's kind of what happens. That happened the previous 4 years. We kind of just coast through the regular season. Prior to this season, I think we had 3 losses in the 3-week losses in the regular season of SCL out of all 4 editions we had managed. So it really just felt like, oh, cool, we had 8 points in the first 5 weeks. We can kind of chill and take the foot off the gas a little. And turns out we couldn't have done that. And it just, it honestly by far wasn't the worst way we've gone out. If anything, it just felt a little cathartic. Sometimes you think, my last time ever managing, I'll either win or come as close as I'll get, and then I'm just going to hop out and be done. This just felt like, okay, it just feels like kind of a natural end to things without having won it all, which is fine. We made finals the first year, semis tiebreak, semis again, and now barely out. But yeah, no, SCL, I love the tournament. I love the Terrors. And it just felt like a fitting end this year. It just felt like a good send-off. And as much as it sucks to go out without ever winning a trophy as a manager, it's just something I'll have to accept.
Bro, you got the biggest ring you could got. So congratulations on engagement first and foremost. Real lives always take priority. I always tell that to my players, like whenever someone say to me, hey, I'm occupied, I have tests next week, man, focus on real life. Those are where your biggest moments will happen. Of course, we love our game, we want to win, we are competitors. We love the people that we met here, even though we never faced like face-to-face in real life. We make a lot of friends, but bro, I don't have any words other than congratulate you for your journey so far. Hope to see more of you, and to say that as someone who aspires to manage an official, I probably won't have that much more time in my life in order to dedicate to that. It's always so nice to trade experience with guys like you two, that have a lot of much more Mons experience than myself, even though I'm probably older. And by the time I was in the tours, although I was confined to Shen's channel, I could see you putting your soul on that, saw the energy of the team that, although it was gloomy, I think it's a correct way to call it. It was, I wouldn't call it sad, but it was like that slowly fade away of light, I agree with the sentiment. It was super nice to see you guys working to really, and even Kunal at some extension. I'm trying to manage the most low-tier tours I can. I managed the next PUCL, I managed the Doubles World Cup. Gold Mason was like, what the fuck you're doing here? I'm trying to learn the most so I can end up making the jump. But, well, as a fan, as a community member, thanks a lot for your service, Shiloh. Hope to see you keep playing at least, and be around more than anything. I understand that real life it's tough. We have work, we have other responsibilities, we have like some other significant others, but I think that's a beauty of Mons in the end. it's one of the few hobbies that I can point mostly a positive experience, mostly a not detrimental downside other than the dedication of time, and other than like other passions to me as a Brazilian, like soccer or the stuff, it's a passion. It's something that when I was a kid I used to watch Ash, and now to be a part of a group of people that play with that, have fun with that, to me it's super special. And guys like you too, thank you a lot for making that experiencing that much better, and either by talking with us, having great games, great moments, great tournament runs. And as a fan, it's super nice to have you guys around, and thank you so much for taking part in this episode, for real, and for sharing your experiences. I think they're super valuable.
Thanks for inviting us.
Do you guys
Thanks
have
for having us, yeah.
any last thoughts that you want to make? Last shout out? I know that here it's, bro, by the moment he won, he insta printed my comment saying that his self-buy in your FC wasn't good, and I stand by what I said. Like, mathematically it wasn't good. The result was amazing, but like if you were like, I don't know, managing with someone else, and then hey, I gonna buy tier no matter the price, you would have paid less. That's my point. But okay, I can.
That is true, but he held on to that all season since you posted it, waiting for when we won.
And I could see the happiness on his face when he posted that. But well, Super Tier had an amazing comeback run. I'm super happy for him as well. And thank you so much, guys, for real.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for doing all this coverage all tour. I feel like it made it a lot better. And I definitely tuned in, though I did have to skip ahead to see if my wins were ever covered, which sadly they were not up until now, but still, thanks for doing all of this. It's, I know, a huge undertaking that probably doesn't get enough thanks, but yeah, no, it's a pretty cool thing you guys have set up.
Well, Shiloh, are you ready? Are you ready to do it for SPL? Because you're a host, so I'm recruiting you. You're gonna do it. We're gonna do the SPL coverage, man.
Oh, I'm in. Now that
How are you gonna call the
is
SPL nut? Because you can't call the nut too. So
I don't think we can call it the
creative
nut.
on that
I don't
front.
think we can call it the nut on the official Smogon channel. I don't think we can do that.
Says who?
Good point.
Don't you run it? You can
Good
call it
point.
whatever you
Good
want.
point. Yeah, you know what? Good point. I can do that. I won't.
we need
but
to make
I could.
a fire acronym like that makes our like internal kid crack a laugh.
Sure.
Because the intro and the outro are amazing. Thank you for the nut.
Exactly. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Nut. Thank you, Shiloh and FC again, and we will see you later.